Bullies snapped a locker room photo of her, but they were dead wrong about who she was. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Elena Vasquez navigated the crowded hallway of Millbrook High. 3 weeks into her senior year, she still felt like a ghost haunting someone else's life. Her worn sneakers made no sound against the polished linoleum as she moved between clusters of students who barely acknowledged her existence. Tyler Bennett materialized in front of her like a predator sensing weakness. His varsity jacket caught the harsh light, and his followers arranged themselves behind him with practiced precision. The quarterback's smile never reached his eyes as he stepped into her path, blocking her route to chemistry class. "Well, well," Tyler drawled, his voice carrying that particular brand of cruelty that teenagers perfected. "Look who we have here, the mystery girl." Elena's father had taught her to recognize threats long before she understood why. Something in Tyler's posture, the way his hand moved toward her shoulder in what appeared to be a casual gesture, triggered every alarm her training had embedded in her muscle memory. Her response was automatic. Elena's hand shot up, catching Tyler's wrist with surgical precision. She twisted her body weight, applied pressure to his elbow joint, and suddenly the untouchable golden boy found himself pressed against the lockers with his arms secured behind his back. The hallway fell silent. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to dim their buzzing. Elena released him immediately, stumbling backward with wide eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I thought you were going to—" But Tyler's expression had already shifted from shock to something calculating and dangerous. His humiliation would demand retribution, and Eleanor knew she had just painted a target on her back that would follow her through the remaining months of senior year. The security camera above locker bank 12 captured everything. In the administrative office, someone was already reviewing the footage, rewinding the clip to study Eleanor's defensive maneuver with professional interest. The movement displayed training that civilian teenagers shouldn't possess. Elena pushed through the double doors leading to the courtyard, her heart pounding against her ribs. 17 years of her father's instruction, and she had blown her cover in less than a month. The muscle memory didn't distinguish between real threats and teenage posturing. Impressive technique. She spun around to find Lucas Kane leaning against the brick wall. His dark hair fell across his forehead, and his smile seemed genuine enough to immediately put her on guard. "Too convenient," her father's voice whispered in her mind. "Nobody just happens to be in the right place at the right time." "I don't know what you mean," Elena said, adjusting her backpack straps. She noticed one of the side pockets hung open, and her fingers probed the compartment where she kept emergency supplies. The small tracking device her father had insisted she carry was missing. Lucas pushed off from the wall with casual movements that seemed purposeful. "Tyler Bennett isn't used to anyone standing up to him. Most people around here just take whatever he dishes out." He extended his hand, and Elena noticed calluses on his palms that didn't match his clean-cut appearance. Something about this entire interaction felt orchestrated, like pieces moving on a chessboard she couldn't see. "I should get to class," Elena muttered, backing toward the building. But Lucas followed, maintaining a respectful distance that somehow felt more unsettling than outright pursuit. "You're in Mr. Henderson's AP chemistry, right? I can walk you there." He said it like he already knew her schedule, like he had been preparing for this conversation. The student council office buzzed with activity as Sophie Chen sat behind her laptop, managing the school's anonymous confession platform with ruthless efficiency. Her perfectly styled black hair framed features that belonged in a magazine, and her fingers moved across the keyboard with the precision of someone conducting digital warfare. "New submission," her assistant announced, sliding a printed page across the desk. Sophie scanned the content with practiced eyes, categorizing it for approval or deletion. The Millbrook High Secrets page had become her domain, where students poured their confessions into her digital collection box, never knowing who decided which truths saw daylight. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "The Vasquez girl is here. Monitor all submissions about her closely." Sophie deleted the message immediately. She had received similar instructions before, though never about someone so specific. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she considered her next move. Controlling information meant controlling reality, and reality at Millbrook High flowed through her fingertips. She opened a new browser tab and pulled up the confession submission form. Her fingers danced across the keys as she crafted a post that would shape tomorrow's conversations. Did anyone else notice the new girl isn't what she seems? Saw her do something weird to Tyler Bennett today. She's definitely hiding something. She scheduled it for publication in 2 hours. By lunch tomorrow, half the school would be talking about Elena Vasquez. Principal Morrison's office felt like a museum, with diplomas and awards covering the walls. Afternoon sunlight streamed through blinds, casting prison bar shadows across his mahogany desk as he replayed the security footage for the 4th time. Each viewing revealed new details about Elena's defensive maneuver. "Professional training," he muttered to himself, freezing the frame where her stance showed perfect military form. Civilian teenagers didn't move like that, didn't possess that kind of spatial awareness or reaction speed. His computer screen displayed a file folder labeled Vasquez, Elena, background check. The contents made for interesting reading. His desk phone rang, showing only a number with no name. "Here," came a voice he recognized. "We have confirmation. She's definitely the daughter." The line crackled with static, suggesting encryption or distance, possibly both. "After 10 years, she walks right into our territory," Morrison said, leaning back in his leather chair. "What are the chances?" He spun toward the window, watching students move across the courtyard like pieces on a game board. Some games took decades to play. Some moves required perfect timing and infinite patience. "Should we proceed with the original plan?" the voice asked. Morrison considered this, weighing risks against rewards. "No," he decided finally. "Change of plans. This requires a more subtle approach." He hung up without waiting for confirmation, already reaching for his secure phone to make the call that would set everything in motion. The confession went live at exactly 11:47 a.m. Within minutes, responses flooded in from anonymous users whose IP addresses Sophie tracked with software that would make cybersecurity experts nervous. She moderated each comment carefully, amplifying speculation and deleting supportive responses. "I heard she transferred from 3 different schools this year, probably got expelled for fighting. My cousin goes to Westfield High, says weird stuff happened right before she left. None of it was true." Sophie manufactured each rumor with surgical precision, understanding exactly how teenage anxiety spread through social networks. She had learned that perception mattered more than reality. Eleanor found the confession during lunch. Her stomach dropped as she read the comments, each one more vicious than the last. She had experienced this before, but never so quickly, never so coordinated. "Don't let them get to you," Lucas said, sliding into the seat across from her. His lunch tray held food he didn't seem interested in eating. Social media drama never lasts long around here, but his eyes suggested he knew more than he was admitting. "How did they even know what happened?" Eleanor asked, scrolling through increasingly hostile comments. The speed of information spread suggested organized effort rather than organic gossip. Lucas's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "Tyler has a lot of friends. Word travels fast when someone embarrasses the golden boy." He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers as he took her phone. "Mind if I look at this?" She watched him scroll through the comments. His jaw clenched as he read, and she noticed him screenshot several usernames before handing the device back. You recognize some of these people? She asked. Just keeping track of who's talking, Lucas said, but his tone had shifted. Some of these accounts, they're not what they seem. Mrs. Palmer's guidance office smelled like vanilla candles and false sympathy. She reviewed Elena's transfer records with theatrical concern, her reading glasses perched at the end of her nose as she flipped through pages she had clearly studied before. I understand you've attended several schools in recent years, Mrs. Palmer said, her voice carrying that practiced counselor tone. That must be difficult for someone your age. All that instability. Elena shifted in the uncomfortable plastic chair. My family moves a lot for work. It's not really a big deal. But Mrs. Palmer's questions felt too specific, too targeted toward particular aspects of her background. Normal guidance counselors didn't ask about military connections or probe for information about deceased parents. Your father's profession is listed as federal contractor, Mrs. Palmer continued, consulting papers that contained far more information than standard school transfers required. That's quite vague. What kind of contracting work does he do? Consulting, Elena said carefully. Boring government stuff, mostly computer analysis. Tyler Bennett's locker was a shrine to his own achievements, but today his attention focused on printed screenshots spread across the metal shelves. Images of various female students captured in compromising situations, their faces clearly visible, their privacy completely violated. The new girl's going to be a problem, Drake Morrison said, leaning against the adjacent locker. He was Tyler's lieutenant, the one who handled situations that required less finesse and more direct action. Tyler ran his thumb across one of the photos. Every girl has weaknesses. We just need to find hers. He closed the locker door, concealing the evidence. The confession page is already working. Give it a few more days and she'll be completely isolated. What if isolation isn't enough? Drake asked. Tyler's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then we use the photos for what they're really worth. Millbrook High has a zero-tolerance policy for inappropriate behavior. Amazing how quickly reputations can be destroyed when the right evidence surfaces. Marcus Bennett watched his brother from across the cafeteria. At 15, he had learned to recognize the signs that preceded Tyler's worst behavior. He pulled out his phone and opened a text message to an unknown number. Brother is planning something with the new girl. Same pattern as before. The message showed as delivered but not read, like dozens of others he had sent over the past 2 years. Someone somewhere was collecting evidence about his family's activities. The response came quickly. Document everything. Your brother's pattern is crucial evidence. Marcus deleted the conversation immediately. If Tyler discovered these communications, the consequences would extend far beyond simple sibling rivalry. The photograph album in the school library's historical section contained decades of student memories. Elena flipped through pages while researching her assignment, but one section stopped her cold. A page labeled Class of 2014 showed a familiar face among the senior portraits. Her mother's smile looked exactly the same. The name beneath read Rachel Martinez, not Rachel Vasquez as Elena had always known her, but the eyes, the bone structure, the slight scar above the left eyebrow, all unmistakably her mother's features. Her hands shook as she photographed the page with her phone. Her mother had attended Millbrook High exactly 10 years ago. Her mother had never mentioned living in this town. Her mother had died in what authorities called a random car accident when Elena was 7. Except now she was staring at evidence that suggested her mother's death might not have been the end of her story. Finding what you're looking for. Sophie Chen materialized beside her table, her approach silent and her timing suggesting she had been watching Elena's research progress. Just working on a history project, Elena said, closing the album casually. Sophie's knowing smile suggested otherwise. Funny how the past keeps reaching into the present. Sometimes people think they can escape their history by moving away, changing names, starting over. She opened her laptop with practiced efficiency. The confession page has been getting some interesting submissions about you. People are starting to ask questions about your background, your family. She turned the screen toward Eleanor, revealing a dashboard that showed not just published confessions, but dozens of pending submissions, IP addresses, and user analytics. The interface tracked user behavior with the precision of professional surveillance software. "Who's really running this thing?" Elena asked. Sophie closed the laptop. "The same people who've been waiting 10 years for you to come home." She stood, adjusting her designer handbag. "Welcome back to Millbrook, Elena Vasquez. Your mother would be so proud to see how much you've grown." The emergency contact device, disguised as a USB drive, contained technology that most military units would recognize. Elena activated it during her walk home, establishing encrypted communication with coordinates that traced to a secure facility 3 states away. "Status report," came her father's voice through the nearly invisible earpiece. "Compromised," Eleanor said, maintaining the appearance of a normal phone conversation. "They know who I am. They've been expecting me." "Confirmed. Intel suggests the operation has been active since your mother's investigation. Maintain your cover. Backup is already in position." The line went dead, leaving her with more questions than answers, and the growing certainty that her presence at Millbrook High served purposes beyond her education. Principal Morrison's evening phone call connected him with Judge Bennett over encrypted lines. Both men had waited a decade for this moment, and both understood that failure meant exposure of crimes that could destroy generations of carefully built influence. "The daughter is showing more awareness than anticipated," Morrison reported. "She's been trained to recognize surveillance. My contacts in the federal system confirm her father's background," Judge Bennett replied. "Special operations, intelligence analysis. We've been hunting the daughter of a ghost who's been hunting us." "The confession page strategy was working," Morrison continued. "Social isolation will make her more vulnerable to direct approaches." "And your insurance policy?" Judge Bennett asked, referring to leverage they had maintained for years. "Still secure," Morrison confirmed. "The photographs provide motivation for anyone considering cooperation with federal investigations. Lucas's apartment revealed more about his real identity than any high school student should possess. Surveillance equipment filled a spare bedroom, and his computer setup could support cybersecurity operations for small corporations. His secure phone rang, showing only numbers. "She's starting to put pieces together," he reported, uploading encrypted files. "The confrontation with Tyler Bennett was exactly what you predicted." "And your emotional compromise," came the response, addressing concerns that had been growing since his first conversation with Elena. Lucas hesitated. "She's not what the briefing material suggested. The psychological profile doesn't match the reality. Stay focused on the mission. Your sister's safety depends on successful completion of this operation." The line went dead, leaving Lucas with the impossible choice between personal connections and family obligations. He examined surveillance photos of his sister, Anna, attending classes at a private school in another state, unaware that her education was purchased with her brother's cooperation. The hidden camera network Elena discovered spanned the entire school district. She found the first device while investigating flickering lights in the second-floor bathroom, finding sophisticated recording equipment disguised as routine maintenance hardware. Her training allowed her to identify professional-grade surveillance that most people would never notice. The equipment monitored student conversations and recorded behavior that could be used for blackmail. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop looking or people will get hurt." The message included a photograph of Lucas's sister at her private school. Sophie's laptop screen showed real-time access to student smartphones. Her software required no installation and left no traces that typical security scans would detect. She scrolled through private text messages and photo galleries with casual efficiency. Her analysis of Elena Vasquez revealed careful digital hygiene that suggested professional training, minimal social media presence, encrypted communication apps, and search histories that indicated systematic intelligence gathering. Her secure phone buzzed with new instructions. Escalate the psychological pressure. Use the confession page to isolate her completely. But tonight, something felt different. The photograph of Eleanor's mother had triggered memories that Sophie thought she had successfully buried. Her own adoption at age 7, her arrival at Millbrook under circumstances that nobody had ever explained. She accessed her own background files. The documents revealed inconsistencies she had never questioned before. Her birth certificate showed one location, her earliest medical records indicated another, and her adoption papers contained signatures that didn't match notary seals. Someone had constructed her identity with the same precision they used to construct her role in this operation. Her entire life at Millbrook High had been orchestrated by the same people who had been planning Elena Vasquez's arrival for a decade. Her hands shook as she composed a private message. "I know what you did to my real parents." The response came immediately. "Focus on your assignment, Sophie. Your real father is watching everything you do." Principal Morrison's number appeared on her caller ID. She answered with growing understanding that her whole world was about to change. "Hello, daughter," came his voice. "I think it's time we had a conversation." Sophie stared at Principal Morrison across his mahogany desk. The man she had called a mentor now claimed to be her father, and the evidence scattered between them told a story of manipulation spanning her entire life. "You killed my real parents," she whispered. "Your real parents were federal agents," Morrison admitted. "They discovered our operation in 2008. We had no choice." He gestured to surveillance monitors, showing students throughout the building. "You were 7. We gave you a better life." Sophie's fingers moved toward her laptop keyboard, beginning to type a post that would destroy everything. "Principal Morrison is running a criminal network. I have proof." But before she could publish it, her screen went black. Someone had remote access to her system. "Disappointing," Morrison said, holding a device that controlled the school's entire digital infrastructure. "I hoped you'd be more grateful." Eleanor received an encrypted message during 5th period. "FBI operation active. Maintain position. Your mother is alive." Everything she believed about her past dissolved in seconds. Her mother hadn't died in a car accident. She had been in witness protection for 10 years, working with federal agents to build a case against the Millbrook criminal network. Colonel Rodriguez materialized in the hallway outside her classroom. His presence confirmed that tonight's events had been planned years in advance. "Time to finish what your mother started," he said, leading her toward the administrative wing. Lucas appeared beside them. "My sister's safe," he reported. "Federal agents extracted her 2 hours ago." Judge Bennett's courtroom had become a command center as FBI agents coordinated arrests while reviewing evidence that Sophie's confession page had inadvertently preserved. Years of student conversations and private messages had created a digital paper trail documenting systematic exploitation. 47 arrests, Agent Rachel Martinez reported. Elena's mother stepped into the light for the first time in a decade, her face older, but her eyes unchanged. Tyler Bennett sat in handcuffs, his collection of photographs providing evidence linking the high school network to national trafficking operations. His father, Judge Bennett, was already being processed in federal custody. Sophie stood before a federal judge. Her cooperation had earned her immunity, but the psychological damage would require years of therapy to process. Marcus Bennett entered witness protection. At 15, he was too young for prosecution, but his recordings had provided crucial evidence describing years of watching his family destroy lives while law enforcement looked the other way. The Millbrook High graduation ceremony occurred 6 months later. Elena walked across the stage accepting her diploma from a new principal who actually cared about student welfare. Her mother sat in the audience, wearing civilian clothes but maintaining the watchful posture of someone who had spent a decade gathering evidence. Lucas joined Elena at the podium. His speech about justice and redemption earned standing ovations from classmates who understood they had survived something extraordinary. "Some battles take years to win," he said, meeting Elena's eyes, "but truth always finds a way to surface." Elena Vasquez began her freshman year at the FBI Academy, her application fast-tracked due to exceptional circumstances. Her mother served as her mentor. Together, they represented 2 generations of women who refused to let criminals hide behind authority. Lucas Kane studied cybersecurity at MIT, his expertise now serving legitimate law enforcement purposes. His sister Anna attended public school in their hometown, her education funded by seized criminal assets rather than her brother's cooperation with federal investigations. The citizens of Millbrook slowly rebuilt trust in institutions that had failed them. New leadership, federal oversight, and community involvement ensured that systematic exploitation of children would never again be tolerated or concealed. Justice, Elena learned, sometimes required patience, but it always required courage. To speak when silence would be easier, to act when inaction would be safer, and to trust that truth would ultimately prevail over power.